Chapter 5 Rational Authority. Uniformities in nature are neither perfect nor pervasive. It would be superstitious to regard them as obligatory. Where elements are similar and conditions similar, effects are similar too. Perhaps that is the deepest uniformity, itself possibly not absolute, which might seem to explain the others. Yet in animal life and in human society, the truly efficacious elements are so complex and obscure, and the conditions so miscellaneous, that uniformities often seem to establish themselves miraculously at a distance, by a mysterious contagion or mimesis, as in gesture, sentiment, and speech, being spontaneous, yet involuntary, and at the same time socially approved. Conformity to usage in the tongue seems to everyone correctness, and in the heart, virtue. Society thus breeds superstition to defend it, and the mechanical domination of usage passes for authority. Yet the more a custom or opinion flourishes by contagion, the less rational authority it has. Diffusion in such matters does not even prove that the epidemic usage is either useful or congenial to those who have adopted it. It may be, for almost everybody, only a vested automatism. So, swearing, smoking, tattooing, and other barbarous fashions or mutilations are not originally congenial to most people. A defiant, puerile conceit in doing something odd and a little painful may have started them. Foolish provocation or mere involuntary contagion may have spread them, and tradition may keep them alive, like contagious diseases, against the organic health and simple happiness of all. They are parasitic vices which the body can endure, and is equipped neither to resist nor to expel. Is there any personal or social habit that might not conceivably be in this case? I can think of but two proofs which custom and public opinion may put forth in defense of such habits as being suited to human nature. One proof is that the habit or opinion in question has not, as yet, proved fatal to all who adopted it. So sexual inversion, which must tend to die out in each case, nevertheless reappears occasionally. The other proof is less cogent, but more suggestive, namely, the person who initiated the given usage may have felt an unsuspected advantage attaching to it, or perhaps only a symbolic appropriateness, which in the absence of all utility might nevertheless heighten the pleasantness of life, like good manners. This sort of apparently empty, yet beneficent artifice appears clearly in rhetoric and in music, optional, but shares complications in the exercise of human faculty, which add new dimensions to the moral world, by giving free rein, without disaster, to vital liberty. Casual practices of this kind may become automatisms, irresistible as idle impulses, like biting one's nails, even if detested in their effects, or, when fashionable, they may even be defended on specious grounds, such as that the ugly results are not essential to them, but due to other causes, and cynics may always advocate old follies, because worse follies would probably take their place. There is really one virtue that custom and public opinion possess, even when most irrational, that they give a popular form to action and thought, by which these are rendered distinguishable and open to criticism and improvement. Facts and logic may well be outraged by tradition, but at least tradition articulates manners, defines the arts, and renders social types clear and dramatic. With the cards distinctly marked and the rules fixed, the game of politics can be played to a finish, even if only to prove its own vanity. A round of errors may sometimes be more tolerable and interesting than a lifelong tete-a-tete with the obvious. Is it not actually so in philosophy? Freedom is legitimate when it does not usurp authority, and a radical critic of current follies is likely to betray his own, and to prove odious rather than persuasive. His own rational conscience, if he had it, might falter and accuse him of becoming inhuman by his insistence on being quite right. When, then, has a political movement or institution rational authority? When is it right? Let us first set aside certain absolute standards which, even if they were admissible philosophically, could have no foothold in politics, such as the divine origin of particular precepts or the truth of the dogmas involved in them. For the believer, such precepts and dogmas are evidently above criticism, yet interpretations of them may vary, and there is politically a prior question to be solved. Are the motives and sanctions supporting a given theocratic faith themselves humanly and socially good? The covenant, for instance, of Jacob with the Lord, established the worship an oracle that should henceforth be preserved absolutely. But Jacob's conditions in proposing this covenant are rational politically. They exact the Lord's help in war and in tribal economy. Even then, if Jacob's dream be dismissed as a normal illusion, the psychic disposition that prompted it is thoroughly, even crudely, rational, and the covenant based upon it imposes no alien domination on Israel. Human policy, mythically sanctioned, remains autonomous, so long as events justify the policy pursued under such religious auspices. They go to prove that myth, when positivistically inspired and positivistically sanctioned, is harmless in politics, and may be psychologically useful, or even a true premonition of destiny. In Jacob's vision, there is much more than this opportunity to secure a sure, invisible ally in the perilous government of a marauding tribe. There is a religious imagination, but this, though it may eventually supplant the business of politics, has no authority to direct or to limit it. What, then, apart from the celestial assistance that may have been secured by contract, can determine the rightness or wrongness of a ruler's policy? It cannot be primal will alone, either in himself or in his people. This primal will supplies the vital force at hand and determines its blind endeavors, but it has no inner light to distinguish its possible from its impossible future achievements. Primal will justifies naturally in that it loves them, all its errors and vices. We are not concerned now with the self-judged righteousness of all actions, but only the rational justification of some against the folly of others. And the first answer suggested by primal will itself to this question, when faced by some immovable obstacle or by some horrible unintended result, is this: that which makes an action rational is the material possibility of carrying it out successfully. In a word, circumstances render one action rational, another irrational. This first answer at once suggests but corrects a maxim decried by moralists, but forever reasserted by natural will, namely, that might is right. In identifying authority with the favor of circumstances, we deny all intrinsic rightness or wrongness to any form of will or action. The difference lies only in the suitability of that impulse to the world in which it arises. You have a right to be what you are and to become what you can become. To deny this is literally superstitious. It stands aside from the vital fact itself, and seems to feel the presence of another impulse spying on it and loathing it. Then, infected with this alien will, the native will is perturbed and hesitates. But the alien impulse is a form of primal will, just as absolute and groundless morally as the native will it detests. And it is mere confusion and cowardice to fear to like what you like because another person dislikes it. So far, the willful man who says that might is right is a true man and rational, yet he would be mindless in the highest degree if he meant that all initiatives are equally fortunate. He may always do as he likes, but he will seldom get what he wants. He will prove himself a fool in little things and in great if he persistently pursues what circumstances deny him. Circumstances are indeed changeable, but may be rendered more favorable by man's own action. But to that extent, his action was well adapted to circumstances. In order, however, to render the whole government of a soul or of a nation rational, it would be necessary to select from all the natural impulses that presented themselves, such only as at each moment conspire with circumstances, and this would require perfect knowledge or magic sympathy reporting, at each step, the whole complexity and momentum of the universe. Rightness, then, in action or opinion, insofar as it depends on sagacious conformity with circumstances, can never be complete in any case, nor can it be summed up adequately in any maxim, since circumstances are variable, but rules of thumb can be accepted as rational in spirit when they indicate the prevailing conditions in the immediate sphere of the action or opinion concerned. As for instance, the maxim, do to others as you would be done by, is rational to spirit, although in the concrete not all men like to be treated in the same way, nor do any class of men wish to be treated in the exact way that would actually be best for them, or best for their neighbors, and this last is probably the motive behind the maxim adopted. For if you treat people as they like to be treated, they will become more friendly and useful to you. Other people figure in such rational policy as an element in circumstances not, at least rationally or calculably, as centers of imagined life on their own account. This last observation applies unexpectedly to the rationality of conduct for one's own good, to transcendental spirit speaking for the posture of living will at any moment. A man's character, his past attachments, and future needs form part of that imposed world which confronts it so irrationally. All other movements, rooted in the same psyche as the spirit, but latent for the moment, seem alien circumstances to be discovered, explored, and transcended if possible. They fill an inner circle of circumstances with which reason must reckon if it hopes to direct action. And this inner ring of neighbors is more limited and familiar than the great ring called the world, but impossible to escape and hard to modify. Whereas a confident man, sure of himself, can often escape from the social and topographical world that he first drops into. But to change the character of one's own psyche is, in the direction of origins and memory, impossible, and in the direction of conduct and belief, terribly difficult. Thus, unless circumstances are adequately known, action and opinion cannot be rationally justified in the world. Unless the elements of the inner man are harmonized, action and sentiment cannot be rationalized in the will and the conscience. Failing in either direction, no principle of action or judgment has any rational authority, for in the first case, you are contradicted and defeated by the facts, and in the second case, you are contradicted and defeated by the outraged cries of your own bosom.